Hey, it's 28 millimeter RPG Rick here. This is my third time trying to do this. Come back from a bit of a family thing, a province over from me. And I'm like worried that the next update is the one that kills my computer and gives it the blue screen of death. You know, these days here. Um, anyways, Shauner sent me this one. He said it'd be an interesting thing for me to go ahead and do some form of well, I figured doing a video reply is the best here. I forget his name. He says it in the beginning. It's Night something or something like that. I'll put his link in here, but he has a few well, about 150 subscribers. Go ahead and subscribe to him. He's talking about stuff that's interesting enough for me to reply to and give my 4D roleplay retrospect upon. In this case, he's talking about mysteries and how they are married to the railroad. Of course, I don't think that way, and I have solutions to some of the things that he brings up here, but we'll go through them piece by piece as I move my head away from the mic to go ahead and hit the play button.
On the back porch, Night Danger.
Night Danger.
Epiphany about mystery design.
Okay, keep in mind he does have very, very low volume levels. I can't adjust them anymore, so please bear in mind. Very low mic here. So let's go on.
In RPGs, I've complained already that mystery games are married to the railroad. They just can't let go of the idea that you're supposed to basically play out the sequence of events that would make up a mystery.
Especially everybody out there, like 99%.
So all the advice and game design is built around making sure that the players go from point A to point B to point C to the conclusion reasonably well. And they talk about ways to keep
terrible advice
or moving clues around to make sure they get all the information they need. And of course, I've already
even
complained,
worse.
This is railroading.
Yes.
But not only is the mystery married to the railroad, the mystery is married to an ending, a conclusion, a stopping point. When people write mystery games, it seems to me that they are not intended for sustained campaign play. Ongoing, whatever. It's like, oh, this will be 2-3 sessions. And so you make characters for this module or this adventure, and you play through it, and then you move on. You do another adventure, you roll new characters. I'm averse to this sort of design because it has been my experience that it takes a couple sessions, sometimes up to 6 sessions, to even get a feel for what a character is like and how you want to play them. You got to kind of ease into it and get familiar with the stakes, the world, the NPCs, and your motivations in that world before you can even really begin to enjoy some of the best parts about role-playing games.
I have something counter about this, and it's not now when you watch a movie, how long is a movie? It's like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Some of the really long ones are 2 hours. Do you understand what it may be 1 or 10 characters in that movie? Do you understand all those characters by the time that session is that movie is over? Of course you do. And why is that? Well, it's because those characters are having conversations with each other. There's, besides the, event that is happening. Let's use, for example, like Lord of the Rings. Okay, like it's a 2-hour movie, but the very first movie, you're starting to understand who everybody is, and that is caused by characters talking to each other, and they bring up little interesting things about their background as they're telling, as they're, making a parlay back and forth with each other in several different conversations. You start to understand, where they're coming from. And all of that is not pertaining to the current situation of Sauron amassing his power and needing the ring of power. That is a catalyst. That's what we call a catalyst, like a premise. So you start off with a premise, and the game master comes with this premise, and now the characters interact with each other. Now the characters may have vices and virtues, that sort of thing. Bilbo wants to keep the ring, and he doesn't want to give it up, and he shows that he doesn't want to give it up. He's been burdened by the power of the ring, and you understand that, and you see how Frodo reacts to it and everything. He realizes, if he carries this ring, he may end up being like Bilbo, but then there's different kinds of circumstances that happen. The dark riders come in, and there's all kinds of different situations and misadventures between all the characters, which don't relate to Sauron amassing an army and wanting the ring of power. It's stuff going on between the characters. The love life of Aragorn. Who's this stranger that's in Bree, sitting in the in the bar there, and the shenanigans that all the hobbits get into and stuff like that. Those are character building moments. You must have that in your games. Otherwise, it's just going to be a board game or a game of Clue. So I highly recommend, that you check out the 4D role play. We have plenty of examples of our gameplay. Everybody stays in character for the entire session, just like you are watching a movie. None of those characters are asking an invisible GM questions or anything. We play it out just like a movie. If a scene changes, the narrator or the game master tells you what's in front of you in the vicinity, and the characters decide on what they're going to do, and they are allotted a time for enacting their one action and saying what they're saying in vocally, or they can go ahead and start using what we call anchoring, which is bringing up, like, maybe Aragorn brings forth the little amulet given to him by his what's her name, his potential fiance there, the half elf girl. And he's bringing up memories and thoughts, and maybe he says something about the item that he holds in his hand, or and stuff like that, that brings up the different things that the characters are thinking about at each time. There's a lot of in-depth character thought processes going on, which we use our actions for as well. Maybe I need to verify, my surroundings a little bit more as a character, so I use my action to implicate more questions. Checking the depth of a stream. I do what I do in a real life situation. Grab a branch, stick it into the water, check the depth. The game master will then tell me how deep it goes or whatever. I'm indicating through my actions the questions that I have. So we all stay in character. We teach people how to do that and stay on track that way. If you yourself, Mr. Danger, want to learn a bit more, always come and approach one of us. Or if you out there, anybody that's watching this, same thing. If you're interested in figuring out what we're doing, just come and ask us. We'll invite you. We'll go through some practice. It's all free. I'll be there. I'll put together a scenario for you to go through, and we'll see where you are with learning to stay in character and seeing the processes that we go through in order to make you a role player. Not an actor, not a LARPer, a role player, and go from there. And then you'll meet other people that do the same thing. And when you get that dynamic together of different characters that stay in character and, play their characters through their vices and virtues, you have character arcs going on and all kinds of things happening. You don't have the game master coming in and saying, well, if you do this, you can get this. If you do this, you can. That's game. That's like game show hosting. We don't do that. The game master is purely a narrative, or possesses an NPC in order to play that NPC out. So the game master knows what all the NPCs' vices and virtues, their goals, and their habits and all that stuff. So they know. Well, when we prepare our sessions, it's very important that we have the NPCs, done up that we can play them without any, messing it up. Like starting making offhanded jokes as that NPC. Well, then you're going to have to make sure that you keep on using those offhanded jokes whenever they're interacting with that character. So you end up writing down these notes about these characters as you're portraying them, because not only do you have your notes that you've written down, but sometimes little things pop up out of your mouth as like a game master. So you write that stuff down and make sure you play that character, that NPC, accordingly from then on, in the same way that you would, and keep your notes up for that kind of stuff. Excuse me. But yeah, that's how we all get character. It should be within the first 10 to 20 minutes. You should be able to get in the skin of your character and realize the basics of what they're doing and their vices and how their vices and virtues work with the other characters. And they'll learn about them as you present them. You won't be giving them big expositions of, oh, this is my character, this is what he does, blah, blah, blah. No, we do it just like a movie. You meet this character, or you may have some sort of history with another character. So we always have that little, session 0 where a couple characters know each other. Well, then develop together. You and your buddy there, the two players, get together and create your characters. And how do they relate to each other? And are they good friends? Are they enemies? Or do they have a common? Did player one's ex-wife become the other guy's girlfriend or something like that? It could be all kinds of things. You guys develop that and bring it into the game. It just brings interesting dynamics into it. Let's continue on listening here.
It's not just silly voices and
yeah,
exciting dice rolls, but that is part of it. But if a mystery game is always intended to be short-lived and come to a definite conclusion, you never really get to know your investigator as well as you would be able to in something like a long-going D&D campaign, where it's from one adventure to the next, and the character develops and you learn more about them.
If you watch Max's video, well, I also have it on here. It's The Witch of Dunkervale. It's a group of so the premise is a group of investigators together to investigate a potential witch in a remote town. And the investigator sent out there is I was playing a captain, which was kind of the in-between. He was guarding, the priest and the scholar. The scholar was more headstrong to, learning physics and all that kind of stuff, all the verboten things that were coming up in the 16th century, and, the academia and stuff like that. The priest was more, he wanted to have, a witch burning, basically. So he was very, adamant that he had control, that he controlled the masses kind of thing. And everybody played their characters in that session very well. And it was a lot of headbutting. There was a lot of things going on. The witch hunt was totally all secondary. That wasn't the focus. That was merely the catalyst of these characters butting heads. And the priest was trying to plant evidence that the witch is actually a witch, a demon worshiper, that sort of thing. And he played his role so well. Phil was so awesome as that character. And we weren't doing. I mean, people say, yeah, I do accents and stuff like that. Well, yeah, I speak German, I speak Ukraine, I speak English. So for me to start, talking in a accent, natural for me, right? So and the thing was, you don't have to have an accent. Our players, could use, natural inflections, as they're talking. Maybe he has a tweak or something. We'll use that. We'll put that in there. We'll play our characters that way. We're always in character, so you always portray that with your characters. But the thing was, that whole session, what was it? Hour and we always only hour and a half sessions, but we get into character by about 20 minutes in. We're finally in the skin of our characters. We do that with a lot of bouncing back conversations between the characters, because that really helps solidify a lot of the quirks and intricate nuances of each player, each character, and by that time you've got a pretty solid foundation of what your character is going to be for the rest of the session, and you keep on going with it. You keep on rolling with it. So that's how we do it. And once again, it's all staying in character. We never go out of character during this session. After our session is done, then we laugh and joke and everything, and we talk about, we do our decompress, and we talk about things that we could do better in the game, and how we can improve certain things. That certainly, but in the meantime, that was a very successful session. We played the characters very well, and it led to a natural conclusion at the end, which is very interesting. I think you would love it if you watch that. But we have many examples of that. And just check it out. Any questions, follow suit, by asking, and we answer. It's all free. I even train people to do this. I do practice sessions with people that want to learn this method of role play. And we're a very friendly group. You just have to be super active in it. You can't just be sitting back and being just the die roller in our games. You have to be an active participant in our games. You have to be, being your character. You have to say what you do every turn. You have to say what you say every turn. And, you do a bit of anchoring as well in order to bring up some of the little interesting things about your character. And it makes an interesting dynamic and building of character arcs and conclusion of character arcs. That's all you're really it's what the movies do, and it's what you should probably pick up on in movies, because when you watch a movie, it's not about the premise. The premise brought all the characters together. It's about how the characters interact, their vices, virtues, all that stuff, the quirks about the characters, and how they interact with each other, and the NPCs, building relationships, or destroying them, and that's it. We'll continue on with what you're saying here.
So how do you get investigation as the main activity of the players?
You don't.
Which, for my interest, is
not important.
Doing, cop fiction. How do you get that drawn out and sustained? And the answer is, I think, in part, to stop thinking in terms of endings. Stop thinking in terms of conclusions.
Right.
Right. I made an offhand tweet the other night that I think the Vice desk is better fit for an RPG than Homicide, because there's only so many ways you can make a murder interesting, and if the players are always doing the same types of activities over and over again, it'll get stale. And frankly, all the stuff that makes murder mystery exciting, I think, it draws back on the dynamism and flexibility of play that, say, a Vice desk or an FBI investigation into the mob.
You might know what Hill Street Blues is. It was a TV show back in the 80s and 90s. It was a story about, a precinct. So there was, different investigators, beat cops, that sort of thing, criminal elements that would show up from time to time. The investigations that they were on, secondary. What was more interesting was, one cop had a bad habit. He was a closet drug user. Another guy was like some undercover guy, but he had, he would have a take in each situation. So he was somewhat corrupt in a way. The head of the precinct was having, his ex-wife was the prosecutor. So there was always these, this headbutting going on between him and his ex-wife. And she was always showing up at the precinct and making all these kind of things. I think maybe she was an attorney or something like that. So she was always in for the best interests of her client or something like that. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But, the focus wasn't the investigations. They were happening. And there may have been like a serial killer that's going on, and the body count keeps on going up and up while these characters are worried about their, one would have like a debt he needed to pay back to a mob boss or something like that. Or another guy has, a truck payments and he's trying to keep his truck from being repossessed because he can't make his payments he's got other bad habits going on. His spending has gone out of control and stuff like that. Those are all the interesting things. That was the interesting part about that entire series, was the characters. It wasn't about the investigations. Who cares about the investigation? It was the characters that were going on and what was happening. And then sometimes, the investigations would include like characters which would come back and reoccur every once in a while. And make an interesting dynamic in each episode, because as things went on, the writers started understanding more about, we can bring back this character under this circumstance, even though he had dealings with Bobby, maybe we can go ahead and have him dealing with this character instead, Joe, and we'll have this happen. And it was always something cool and different about the characters as they go through their arcs each time, and their arcs could go through multiple episodes, or just through one episode. It was that was the interesting thing. It wasn't the investigation. It wasn't the solving the crime. Sure, that happens occasionally, or they miss their mark, and the culprit is still at large, or the serial killer is still at large. But in the meantime, the characters are going through real life problems, having to deal with a strange, a son in jail, or one guy has a daughter which is veering into, the crime and prostitution or something like that. All kinds of things can be injected in there as NPCs, interact with all the different characters, because the game master will be playing the daughter or the ex-wife and all these other things that the field agents encounter throughout their daily doldrum of investigating. That's the interesting thing, is all these, suddenly in the middle of a firefight, my daughter's calling, saying that she leaves a message that her pimp is beating her up and blah blah blah. And in the meantime, you're fighting for your life and in a gun battle on the street. between a bunch of bank robbers and yourself. There's all kinds of different avenues that this can go, and how you resolve these things. Your character gets wung by the bullet, while he was checking his messages as his is calling for help. And later on he gets taken to jail. The daughter shows up all beaten up and everything. The other cops take note of this and go, visiting their buddy and officer in the hospital, and maybe they take things into their own hands and mess up the pimp or something like that. All kinds of things can happen. It's totally not what the investigation involved, and that was interesting. And that's how we approach all of our games now. Is it's the characters. The characters are the focus, not the premise, not this overarching thing going on. It's happening, and of course the game master has to push time forwards and let things proceed out of control of the characters, and it's the background. It's like I say, it's a premise, and you don't have to follow through on the premise. Like I say, interesting thing is characters. Always in the movies. It's never about what's happening, the end result of what your game master had put together for this adventure. It's the characters interacting with each other. That's the important thing. Keep on going.
Because there might be a detective or an FBI agent who spends his entire life, his entire working career, slowly unraveling and working uphill against some element of the criminal underworld.
Yeah.
And he makes gains, he makes losses.
Yeah.
But it just keeps going. It's not like
exactly.
The murder is solved, on to the next one, and it's like tight in chapters. There's a murder, you solve it. There's another murder, you solve it. Compared to this guy is peddling narcotics, and so we do a raid on him, we interrogate him, and he points us to a supplier who points us to another problem, and they're connected to political. Like, you can kind of bounce back and forth between different activities, whether that's raid.
Yeah, I see a lot of that. I that is the wrong way to, you're setting up circumstances that will lead clues to more clues to more clues, and I don't believe in doing that. I keep things a lot more simpler, but the complexity comes up with the actual characters themselves interacting with just their own problems, besides the investigation that needs to be done. There's a lot you can do with it, and a lot of game masters out there think, no, it's all about what they put together for this story. So they need to go to this place, investigate it, get these clues, and blah. That's bullshit. I mean, sure, you could put clues in as a game master to kind of say, oh, okay, this guy, he's following. They find the apartment that the psycho killer is at, and they see a calendar with a bunch of X's on particular days, and one of the players can, maybe they figure out, oh, well, maybe he sees the pattern on the X's are following a pattern on the calendar that's there, the paper calendar. And he's going to kill on this Wednesday. That's what it's looking like. Let's be on the lookout, And that may be, where they go ahead and crack, the case and stuff like that. But in the meantime, the guy's got marital problems and stuff like that, and, wife calling and stuff going on. Mobsters showing up at his house, wanting their take, whatever it is, their background, vice, virtues, that sort of thing is. That becomes more of the focus.
Interrogations, crime scene investigations. You can do all the different interesting things. But unlike a homicide desk, which would be segmented into individual cases, you get this constantly evolving and moving investigation or effort of investigation that will allow for factions to come up, for external forces and problems from corrupt politicians or bureaucrats, and like it never ends. The fight against organized crime is never at a satisfying conclusion. There's always new problems, and if you remove one guy, you make room for another guy. So
Yeah.
why is it that investigation RPGs are so fixated on murder? And it's because most cop and investigation fiction is focused on murder. Procedural police shows are focused on murder, I think for the very reason that it's ill-suited for an RPG. In a procedural TV show, you want each episode to be basically self-contained, have a beginning, middle, and end, and a happy closing. And that way, if somebody drops in or catches it or misses a couple episodes, they're not really missing out on wind.
Shots fired.
There. Bear with me. Where was I? Lost my train of thought. Yes. Procedural cop shows are intended to be episodic and tight with no real continuity between them. And I think that makes for poor RPG play. The continuity and the constantly evolving situation is what makes long-running RPG games satisfying.
That's right. That's right.
So, as I move towards crime fiction, nirvana, enlightenment, I think not only must I jettison the railroad, which has been a cornerstone of mystery RPG design since day one and still is for basically every major mystery game on the market today. I must escape the railroad, but I also must not fall into the trap of episodic investigation. Things should not tie off neatly at the end of each session. There should always be new complications and variables that can spin out into problem. And the possibility of faction play and strict calendar keeping to keep this all manageable from a bookkeeping perspective is possible. But yeah, this is the next step. First, we
Right on. Yeah, this is basically what he's saying here. I agree that you got to get out of that that vicious circle of trying to railroad people into following a path. And this is why I would love to have you say, hey, can I get in on some 4D role play here and start to grok what we're doing. But just to kind of give you a primer here, I say definitely if you, Mr. Danger, can get a hold of us and we could give you some basics on how we stay in character and stuff like that. With 4D role play, once we start playing, we stay in character. In all our session, in the entire session, we stay in character. There's no phones, no interruptions. There's no rules lawyering. There's no people talking out of character. It is all in character, and we teach people how to do this. It's free. We do this on our own time. So I'm spending some of my time to go ahead and freely help other people learn how to role play. Not how to play a game, not how to board game, not how to, do any of these other things. It's staying in character and being your character. And the game master has his own rules. He doesn't move the characters. The characters are responsible for their own actions. They say where they're walking towards. The game master doesn't move them. Game master purely. He explains the vicinity for the players as they reach other areas. So they describe, the surroundings. They only talk to the characters, the player characters, when they embody an NPC. I never talk directly to a character, to a player's character as a game master. I only, describe, and if the player has questions for me, He uses his action in order to ask that question. And we train people how to do that. And the amount of game play that you get in a game becomes it's all gameplay. It's none of this interruptions, people on cell phones, and or talking out of character stuff. That doesn't happen in our games. I mean, occasionally there might be a where somebody has to restate something because they didn't hear anything because technology and streaming and stuff like that. But in an in-person, at the table game, you wouldn't have these issues, and you could hear people a lot more clearly, one to one, face to face, and it works a little better that way. We do it online because it's a hard thing trying to find people that actually want to learn how to role play and stay in character. And that's the reason why we put together our group here to teach how to role play. And man, we would love to possibly have you pop in and learn a bit about what we're doing and take that next step. And we see you have glimmers of potential here in what you state. You see the problems, and you see that and it's what we do is like we look at what Bob the Builder says or Matt Colville says and Seth Skorkowski and all those guys. They have no idea what role play is, and neither can they example good role play. And what we bring to the table is the idea of not wasting anybody's time here. I mean, my time is precious. I maybe got another 20 years left in my life here. So calculating that out, that's basically 800 hours of role play left in my life if I'm playing one session a week, and say a 3-hour session. So I don't have that many hours left. And what hours I commit to teaching other people how to role play, that's also coming out of that too. So keep in mind, I'm doing this to help other people, learn how to role play. And I think if you apply some of the 4D, staying in character and learning how to stay in character and learning as a game master how not to move the players anymore, how not to give them game show host options. You can do this, you can do that. We don't do that. We don't speak in second person in our games. We always stay in character as the NPC or as narrator to describe something or to clarify something by the characters asking through their action, or just to verify things for players in certain circumstances. We read what the player is doing every time. It's a lot. It's visual. We don't play with players that have their cameras off. This is a face to face kind of thing. We must see what you're doing, how you're explaining things, see how your facial properties are during each interaction, and understanding what it is your character is going to do. That really helps. And man, like I said, feel free to contact any of us to come onto our Discord, and we'll show you a few things you can take to your own session and adopt. You don't have to become a 4D role player. Just consider some of the things that we're talking about. I mean, we explain them on some of our videos here too, on how to role play, and go from there. All I can do is wish you luck on your channel. I hope you grow and understand more further on, and keep on posting more interesting topics like this. We'll do video responses to what you're saying, and I think I've hit the subscribe button here on you. So once again, I'll put the link down below and check this guy out. He's asking questions that a lot of people aren't. They're just taking what they learn from all these big wigs, in the on YouTube, and they're just regurgitating what they learned from them. And sometimes, I should say, most of the times, it is not the right answer for what you're getting from them. And you, my friend, questioning things and bringing up your own conclusions here, which I find you are traveling on the right path. And maybe with some help from us, or if you have any questions of us, let us know. Maybe we can get parlay back and forth with you with several of our channels, and you'll have some more subscribers, coming on to you, and making your channel a little bit bigger as well. Until then, everybody out there, have a good day. And links are in the description there for you. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. Talk to you soon.